Hey everybody, my name's Raymond and you're watching Board Game Heaven. In this episode, I'm taking a look at Wurst Case Scenario by Matthias Rossi. It's published by Jumping Turtle Games, and this is a game for 2 to 6 players in which everybody is 1 or 2 sausages on a conveyor belt going to the meat grinder, and you're trying to avoid that, of course, be the last sausage standing. And it started out as a hidden role game, so nobody knows which characters on the conveyor belt are yours, and you can mislead others by playing cards to move along characters that don't have to be yours per se, and the person who ends up being the last one alive on the conveyor belt wins the game. So let me open up the box, show you what's inside, I'll set up a game and explain the rules, and then I'll tell you what I think about it. Worst case scenario. So the box has this funny image of panicked sausages running on a conveyor belt with some meat grinding going on there. And on the back of the box there is some of the cards, the setup of the game with the conveyor belt and these sausages on it. A bit of text. Alright, so let's see what you get in the box. So you get the rule book. In this case I have the Dutch-French version. We got a Dutch rulebook here, and on the other side it's French. And it's just this leaflet basically. That's all the rules there are. You get some Ziploc bags, hooray for that. You get these reference cards for what the cards in the game do. So there's, let's see, 1, 2, 3 of those, and the other side is in this case French. There's a little Jumping Turtle Games and Waterfall Games leaflet with some other games they have as well. There's a bunch of these, you have to punch them. I already put them on their stands. So you got these sausages, all very funny, and you have some of these tokens. So there's a power cord token, there's a marmalade token, there's bananas, and all kinds of crazy stuff. And you get these cards. So, and all these cards do different things, which is explained on those reference cards. So, right, that's what you get in the box. Let's set up a game. To set up Worst Case Scenario, you simply take the 8 conveyor belt cards and put them in a row on the table, ending with the meat grinder card. You can put the reference card somewhere near the conveyor belt, as well as these marmalade, power cord and banana tokens. Then you take the 8 hidden roll cards, which have all of these sausages on them, and there's 8 of them over there on the standees. You shuffle those, and in a 2, 3 or 4 player game, each player gets 2 of these cards, which you keep secret. And in a 5 or 6 player game, each player only takes 1. All 8 sausages are placed on their standees on the first conveyor belt card. Then you take the action cards, give those a shuffle, deal out 3 cards to each player, and place the remaining cards as a draw pile on the table. Any played cards will be placed next to it in a discard pile. The person who last ate a hot dog will get the first player marker, Ms. Ketchup, over here. And now you're ready to play the game. The goal of the game is to win by being the last sausage standing. And the game ends as soon as there is only 1 sausage left on the conveyor belt. And if that sausage is one of the player's secret identities, then that player wins. If it's not, then you've got a total failure. And if all sausages get thrown into the meat grinder at the end of the game, then you've got a worst case scenario, and nobody wins. During your turn, you will either play a card, execute that card, and draw a new one from the draw pile, discard the card you played into the discard pile, or you can choose not to play any cards at all and discard your entire hand and draw 3 new cards, but don't play any. There are 4 types of action cards. You've got the donut card, which is an interrupt card. You've got the mustard cards, which you must play. You get the ketchup cards, which you must play if possible. and you've got the mayo cards, which you may play. At the end of a round, when all the players have played a card or chose to discard their entire hand to draw 3 new cards, then the conveyor belt will start moving. At that point, move all the sausages one by one spot ahead, closer to the grinding machine. If a sausage is on the last conveyor belt when that happens, it falls into the meat grinder and is removed from the game. So let's go over all the different action cards. First of all, you have these ketchup cards, which move a sausage. So you pick a sausage and move it 1 step ahead or back. This one says move 2 sausages in any direction 1 step, and you can't move 1 sausage twice. You have to pick 2 different sausages. This one says move 3 sausages 1 step forward or backward, and this one 4 sausages. You get the point. This one says move all the sausages 1 step closer to the meat grinder. This one tells you to pick 1 card from the hand of another player, but that player gets to decide which card they give to you. This card lets you pick the top card of the draw deck. This card lets you take the top card of the discard pile. This card lets you move 2 sausages closer to each other. So for example, I could say I'm going to move this sausage and this sausage 1 step closer. There has to be at least 1 conveyor belt between them. Then the next card does the same, but in a different direction. You have to move 2 sausages 1 step away from each other. So I could move this one that way and this one that way. Next, this one tells you to destroy 1 conveyor belt card that has no sausages on it. So I could go and remove this one, making the conveyor belt shorter. This one tells you to jam 1 of the conveyor belts. So you take a jam token and you can put it anywhere. So for example, if I put it over there on the last one, then at the end of the round, when everybody has played a card and all of the conveyor belts start moving, then the jammed one does not move, preventing these 2 from falling into the meat grinder. But at the end of that phase, you have to remove it again and the game continues. There's also a banana, so you can put a banana peel token on 1 of the conveyor belts, and you can put it anywhere you want. And that means whenever a sausage is moved onto that, it slips and it moves 1 conveyor belt card further along the track. At that point, you remove the banana from the conveyor belt again, and it's placed next to the board. If nobody slipped over the banana, then at the end of the round, well, all the conveyor belts move and all the sausages get moved. This one gets moved along as well. And if it should happen to fall into the meat grinder, it also simply removed from the cards. This one shuts down the power of the meat grinder. So you take the power outage token here, you put it on the meat grinder, and that means that at the end of a round, the conveyor belt does not move at all. But after that, the crew will have repaired the meat grinder, so you remove it at the end and the new round starts. This Miss Mayonnaise card lets you swap out 2 adjacent sausages. So there have to be 2 adjacent sausages, so I could put this one here and this one there. Then there's another mayo card that lets you add this card as an extra conveyor belt. So I might put it over here. One of my sausages is close to the meat grinder, and add 1 of those as an extra conveyor belt. And finally, there's the donut don't card, which is an interrupt card, and it can be played at any time, even during another player's action. So if another player is moving 2 sausages, so for example with this card moving 2 sausages, and he's going to move this one, and then he says, okay, I'm going to move this one as well, but that's my sausage. I could say, oh no, stop right there, don't do that, and he has to retake the final action. So he only has to replace this one back, not that one. So it can interrupt any action at any time. So that also goes for these two cards where you're moving sausages away or closer to each other. Or you can stop a person from stealing or taking a card. Or you can stop them from moving the entire conveyor belt, and so on. After everybody's played their cards and the conveyor belt has moved one spot, the first player token passes to the player on the left, and you keep playing until there's only one sausage standing. And like I said, if that sausage is one of the player's secret identities, then that player wins the game. If it's none of the player's secret identities, then you have a total failure. And if the last two sausages were, say, over here, and they both tumble into the meat grinder at the same time and no sausages are left, then you have a worst case scenario. And that is how you play. Let's go to my final thoughts. So my final thoughts on Worst Case Scenario by Jumping Turtle Games. Well, let me just say I really enjoyed this game. It is a very light but very fun and, you know, wonky game. It's a filler game. It's almost like a party game. And well, first of all, let me just say the artwork is dead funny. I mean, all of the panicked sausages on this and all the actions you can take. All the cards have different art, which is also very funny. It's in a very you know, humorous style, and it's just hilarious. I like the way all these standees have these different sausages, different characters, and they're all running like they're, you know, panicked or crazy, and it just looks very cool on the table. So the presentation is nice. It's quite simple, you know, you just have cards and a few cardboard standees, but then again, it's also a very cheap game to purchase. So, you know, this is a game, if you enjoy silly games like this, and you can just pick that up for I don't know, it's not a whole lot. I think it was 15 euros at Spiel last year, if I remember correctly. But you know, it's the kind of game that is just goofy, and you can bring that along to game night. You can play it with just about anyone, and it's a lot of fun with kids as well. So yeah, I enjoyed it a lot. It's a short game. You can play several games of it. It's the kind of game, once you've finished it, you want to go again. And there's just a lot that can happen. You have these cards and nobody knows who you are up till a certain point. So you're playing cards and you're moving guys around, you know, like that. And at some point someone's going to think, well, you're moving this one back a lot recently, so I think that's your character. So let's move that one closer to the meat grinder next time. And maybe you've got a donut. So no, that's not going to happen. And at some point, all the players are going to focus on the guy that's farthest to the back, because that's probably one of the players, and that one is probably going to win if you're furthest back from the meat grinder. So people are going to gang up on you as well, you know. So at some point, after a couple of rounds, people may have figured out who's who, and then, you know, it really gets mean and nasty and people are gonna go after each other, and that's just a lot of fun. I think it's a really fun game. It's like I said, it's very light. There's not a whole lot of rules, and it's quick and it's easy to play, it's easy to teach. This is just one of those zany games that you want to have in your collection. So I'm giving this a thumbs up. It's absolutely funny, and you know, if you enjoy games like this, it's absolutely worth giving a try. Right, so that's Worst Case Scenario by Jumping Turtle Games. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you next time on Board Game Heaven.